So I got asked to play Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase on the PS1 by a number of people, and by number of people I mean 2. Thomas, Samuel, I'll be having words with you later. From what I've seen in the comments section on videos of this game, it seems to be a childhood favourite for many, which I'm struggling to understand as this has to be one of the toughest and at times most unfair games aimed at children I've ever had the misfortune to play. Now I know this video is probably going to get me some hate as it is a game beloved by many, but at least hear me out before you go smashing the dislike button. And if by the end of it you still don't agree with me, why not comment and tell me why? Before I do get into the nitty-gritty, however, I have to mention that I've never seen the film this game ties into, and given I'm quite blasé about Scooby-Doo and the gang to begin with, I have no intention of watching it. But to get up to speed, and for those of you who also haven't seen the film, I'll briefly sum up the plot by way of good old Wikipedia. An evil sentient virus attacks 2 dudes at a college. The game it came from is based on the mystery gang's adventures, so the titular heroes visit said college and find out some sciencey doohickey made the virus humanoid in form. They go after it, but they all get pulled into the game by a mysterious someone. They make their way through various levels before coming face to face with their video game counterparts. They team up to take on the big bad and win, obviously, and delete the virus from existence. They then work out that one of the dudes from the college created the virus, and he admits he did so to scare his college peer away and take credit for the sciencey doohickey I mentioned earlier. He was also the one who sucked the mystery gang into the game in the first place. That's it, mystery solved, you're up to speed. So the game starts you off at the point the gang are pulled into this cyber realm. We get a bit of exposition from the gang, and I have to say, this is one of the most drawn out, awkward dialogue scenes I've ever had to watch, and I've played Detective Barbie the Mystery Cruise. For one thing, there's these strange pauses where the characters freeze up after saying a line, like one of them just cut the cheese and they're all staring accusingly at each other so they don't get blamed for it.
Let me see that, Velma.
Why does somebody not know how to flush a toilet after they've had a shit?
What do you mean?
Well, it was fucking one of yous. Disgusting!
And I hate the fact their mouths move regardless of whether they're still speaking.
You look like you've seen a ghost.
That thing wasn't a ghost!
I mean, couldn't the animators sync it up a little bit better? They don't even have lips, they just have a line for a mouth. And then the usual hijinks happen. Fred and Daphne go off to have sex, I mean, look for traps.
Traps illustrated? Freddy!
I read it for the articles.
Velma supposedly stays behind to determine the location of the phantom virus, but really does nothing in the game except stand at the save station and look vacant, occasionally spouting indecipherable voice lines.
Saving your game is always a good idea when there's a phantom virus around. Come and see me whenever you want to save your game or take a break.
Sorry?
And of course, the 2 most incompetent members of the team get the most important duty of luring the virus into the trap. Just like the show!
Would you do it for a Scooby snack?
No way! Roll way!
Would you do it for 2 Scooby snacks? Well, would you do it for—
Oh my god, would you just get on with it already? And we're finally in the game. The actual game where I get to play, that is. And if you can't guess what this is a direct rip-off of, let me give you a hint.
Whoa!
Circular hub room? Check. Levels based on ancient civilizations or periods of time? Check. A friggin' save station on the wall? Check. And if the settings weren't enough of a rip-off for you, there's also a boss level in a coliseum involving a lion, a broken bridge level where one false step on a rickety plank will send you to your doom, and even a section where you have to run towards the camera away from a pursuing enemy, which, might I add, is one of the most boring chase sequences I've ever experienced in a game. Look at this! There's no obstacles to avoid, pitfalls to jump over, and the animators didn't even add an idle animation to the chariot once it stops chasing you. Bloody hell, this game is rough. Altogether, there are 7 settings: Japan, Ancient Rome, the Arctic Circle, Prehistoric Jungle, the Big City, Egypt, and the Amusement Park. Each setting has 3 levels, 2 normal platforming levels and 1 boss fight level, with the design and enemies based around that theme. And some of the enemies are weird. Samurai, sumo wrestlers, and ninja, while completely unoriginal, do make sense in a Japanese setting. But why the heck are we fighting break dancers in the big city? Why not dodge oncoming cars, or pigeons firing shit at you? Why some dude minding his own business, spinning around like a Beyblade? You can't mix and match levels either. You have to start with Japan and work your way through each of its 3 levels. Then, and only then, can you move on to the next adjacent setting. I honestly don't see the point in this. With a game like Crash Bandicoot Warped, yes, you are locked out of later chambers until you beat the boss of the previous, but the game isn't stale because of it, due to the fact every level in a particular chamber is different. You don't have a chamber that only contains Egyptian levels, for example. You get a medieval level, an underwater level, a vehicle level, etc, etc. With Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase, however, you get 3 levels with little to no variance in design or mechanics, and you have to complete all of these before you can do 3 more levels of, well, the exact same thing. Some levels do try to spice it up, such as the skateboard level in the big city and the toboggan level in the Arctic Circle, but bloody hell, what a crock of shite they turned out to be. The skateboard feels far too sharp to turn, meaning poor old Shagster will frequently crash into a car or wall, and the toboggan slips and slides all over the place. Which, yeah, makes sense given Shaggy's making his way down an icy slope, but if you're trying to go for all the collectibles, good luck. Not that it matters anyway, because even if you are enough of a masochist to 100% this game, there is absolutely no reward to speak of. Not even a shoddy cutscene with bad lip syncing and random unnecessary pauses. And even though this game is supposed to be about the entire gang being trapped in a virtual world, we only ever get to play Scooby or Shaggy. Because God forbid Daphne were to ruin her hair or Fred his ascot. I do want to make mention of something here. Nearly everything I've looked up says Scooby and Shaggy play identically, but I have to disagree with that statement. They have the same mechanics, yes, and both admittedly felt absolutely horrific to control at times, but I felt Scooby was a lot more responsive when it came to platforming. Probably helped by the fact he's not moving slower than a one-legged tortoise on Valium. Hey, Shags? Seriously, what's with his run? They're gonna have to put Scooby down due to old age by the time Shaggy makes it to the end of one feckin' level. So the goal is pretty simple for the first 2 levels of each setting, get from point A to point B, and pick up the Scooby Snacks at the end, just like the film. Yeah, there's enemies to avoid or defeat and platforming to tackle, but... this is probably the worst platformer I've ever played. For starters, the enemies in each of these levels do nothing to stop you, mainly because you can take them out from such a long distance away by throwing pies that they never get the chance to attack. And yeah, you heard me right. Pies are the main weapon of the game. I guess it wouldn't really be suitable for a kid's game to have Scoobs or Shaggy running around with an M16, but it would certainly be more efficient because, my god, aiming the pies at enemies can be a downright awful affair at times. It's okay if they're in front of you, but the second they get round the side or directly behind, the aiming reticle becomes completely unreliable. An example of this was when I was fighting Barney the dinosaur. I could have sworn the reticle was in the correct place, but my hopes and dreams of ending this crappy boss fight were dashed as I watched the pie go sailing past Mr. Rexy's leg. And given you only get a few seconds to take a swing at the boss, I missed my opportunity to do so and had to sit through another minute of long-winded boss mechanics. The pies are in limited commodity, but you can find more by butt-stomping various breakable objects throughout the level. However, it got to the point I couldn't be asked to collect them anymore, mainly because most enemies can easily be avoided by running around them, but also because every time you collect a pie, Scooby says, every single time. And the platforming in this game, holy Christ! It does take a little bit of time to get to grasp with a new platformer's controls. Not once, however, playing Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase, did I feel confident with the jumps I was making, not even after 2 hours of play. I don't know how to describe it, the jumping feels sluggish, too weighty. and more often than not, I'd either not jump far enough due to the heaviness, or completely overshoot the platform while trying to compensate. Boss fights aren't much to write home about either. Most follow the same pattern of jump or charge at Scooby or Shaggy a number of times until tired out, to which the game will scream, "Fucking hit him!" to let you know this is your chance to throw a pie. Do this 3 times and you've beaten the boss. This game likes to pull a fast one on you though, as more often than not, a boss will perform a completely untelevised attack, causing you to take damage you couldn't possibly avoid without prior knowledge it was going to happen. For example, the first phase of the samurai fight has him send waves of fire towards Scooby before charging at him. If you successfully dodge his attacks, he'll stop and look around puzzled, to which the game will inform you this is your chance to hit him with a pie. The second phase is the exact same thing, except after he stops and looks around, he'll suddenly lunge at Scooby to attack once again. Oh, well that's fair. The lion wasn't too difficult to defeat, but I didn't really appreciate the extra attack that came from its minions after the boss had been defeated. If I was on 1 health, would this mean the fight would restart? And the mummy fight, oh my god! The phantom virus shields himself from attacks, and you'll need to knock the mummies he spawns off the platform in order to raise said shield. But easier bloody said than done. This whole fight took me around 7 minutes, and 99% of that was dodging the mummies, trying to pick up more pies to throw at them, and ultimately missing due to the awful reticle lineup, forcing me to run, dodge, and pick shit up once again. But by far, the worst boss experience I had in this game came from the very last fight with the phantom virus. It was so diabolical I actually rage quit, and all because you cannot dodge his attacks.
Well, we tried.
English! Speak English, you stupid little retard!
Oh, and if you die on any of these fights, the boss regains all his health and it starts over from scratch, so... Not that it matters too much, as the ending is so lackluster it makes me question why I wasted 2 hours even playing this game.
We looked all over the place for a trap, but we couldn't find anything that would work.
And then I remembered that this system has virus protection software on it.
I always knew that software would come in handy one day.
Are you actually being serious right now? So after all Scooby and Shaggy have been through, the suffering I have endured, you could have just hit a button and poofed the phantom virus away. In terms of the other bosses, sure they weren't amazing or original, but the polar bear fight had some interesting ice physics, the T-Rex was a complete yawn fest and incredibly easy to defeat, and the robot fight, well, I actually really liked this one. It kept me on my toes as I had to constantly pay attention to the direction the floor was moving in, check Shaggy's position to the bombs, and give myself enough distance from the edge of the platform to have time to throw a pie at the boss. All in all, a pretty fun and fair fight. It's just a bleeding shame the rest of them weren't as entertaining. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about Scooby-Doo and the cyberbullying. Apart from that one boss fight, I hated everything about this game. It treats its players like morons with constant tutorials every few steps in the first couple of levels.
Try throwing a pie at them. Use your jump and bounce move to open up those boxes, Scooby. Your dog tag symbol is a check mark. Keep on your toes, Scooby.
And even directly explains how to defeat a boss as well as when to attack it, leaving no room for guesswork.
Avoid his attacks until you're given a chance. Avoid the spears those skeleton gladiators throw at you. That polar bear looks dangerous, but not as dangerous as that slippery ice. Just avoid the lava bombs and attacks from the T-Rex. The conveyor belt will change directions. And keep away from the blasts. Use your pies to knock the mummies off the sides, but don't fall off yourself. This is the very last level, Scooby, so you need to get him this time.
The levels are far too long and extremely bland to look at, with dull, muddy colours and nothing much happening in the background. There are no deviations, no secret areas, no extra challenges, just Scoobs or the Shagster on one linear path with a bunch of super easy to kill enemies and completely pointless collectibles. And the music! Oh my gosh, I never mentioned that! Not only is it entirely forgettable, but it doesn't even fade out and in when it loops. The music just cuts and starts again. It's so jarring to hear, and it just adds to the absolute terribleness that is Scooby-Doo and the Cyberdyne systems. Now, I can understand a game being loved by many due to nostalgia, but why this? Practically every comment I've read about the game states they couldn't even finish it, let alone 100% the bloody thing, and I don't blame them, because it's so inexcusably difficult in some places and downright unfair in others. Overall, not an enjoyable experience whatsoever, and I would recommend to anyone who hasn't played this game, just don't. Not if you value your sanity. And that's my review on Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase on the PS1. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and if you did, please leave a like as it really helps me out. And if you disagreed with some or even everything I said, why not comment and tell me why? Thank you so much for listening to me rant, guys, and peace out! Shout out to supporters Klaxon, Thomas Hinton, Jeffrey Thomas, Razak, Mr. Zugador, Ross Ward, Samuel DeBoss, Poplio the Destroyer, Merendor, Trevor, and Oblivion. Thank you to everyone who continues to support the channel, whether it's on Patreon with all the donations, whether it's on YouTube, being a member, a subscriber, always watching every single video I produce, whether it's a Let's Play, a rant video, a review, a vlog. I'm really glad that you guys just enjoy the content and keep coming back for more. It really means so much to me. So yeah, thank you once again from the bottom of my heart, and ta-ta!